I'd like to talk to you a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of the things that happened from my side of the story. There's been a lot written and a lot said about what happened to me, but never from my side.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a new episode of Let's Talk Elvis. Today, girl, we have a lot on the plate, but first of all, I'm doing an episode for the first time in maybe 4 years, 5 years, 4 years, something crazy, with none other than my best friend in the whole world, Maggie. You guys might know her as Elvis in Leather. Here on Instagram, girl, she's my favorite person in the whole world. I'm not even gonna lie. And so,
That's so cute.
no, talking about Lisa's book with her today is just actually the perfect situation, the perfect scenario. Um, but I wanted to introduce her for those of you who don't know. And if you don't know, you're living under a rock. But Maggie, anything you'd like to say? Anything?
No, well, thank you for having me. Um, I'm so excited. I mean, yeah, I prepared. I have my notes. I'm ready to go. I feel honored to be on this iconic channel again.
Stop it right now. We did this when we were babies. But for those of you who don't know, because honestly, like these videos go out to YouTube, and my YouTube following or whatever, I guess you could say, is very different from people on Instagram and everything. So, for those of you who do not know, me and Maggie have been friends for like 5 years or something, like
Yeah.
going on 5 years at least. And I met her through Elvis stuff. We both had fan pages. We
Oh,
do still
geez.
do. Girl. Yes, yes. We were here like before the movie, before COVID, I mean, Maggie was here before me.
BC.
BC, before the vid.
Right.
No, but we've been, girl, ever since then, like inseparable. We
Mm.
do lives all the time. We did lives like daily during quarantine. Um,
They're coming back.
she
Look out.
we want to bring them back. We also have a joint
What kind of
podcast
silly?
called Elvis Right Now. If you listen to podcasts, we haven't
Listen to.
uploaded literally, please. We haven't uploaded in a hot second. I think actually I think the last episode we made was our tribute to Lisa.
That's so crazy to think about. That it's been what, over a year?
It's been almost 2 years. In January it'll be 2 years.
That's so weird to think about because it's like obviously every day on the Elvis Instagram, it's like, okay, Elvis is gone, like, but then when Lisa died, it was like, what the hell? Like, it was such a weird
Shock. It was a
shock.
shock.
Like, I can't put it into words. Like, it was really like I couldn't believe it. I remember when she got admitted to hospital, and the whole community was like,
Yes.
"Oh, wishing her well," but no one thought that she was gonna die. Like, you just don't
Absolutely
think
not.
that. Um,
No. No.
I remember my dad told me, "Oh, Lisa Marie Presley died," and I was like, I just didn't know what to do because I didn't want to post about it
Mhm.
immediately. And it's one of those silly things that, like, why are you thinking about that? But you do because that's what the community is.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, she never got to write the book while she was alive, so obviously nobody thought about that this was something that was coming until it was announced.
Right. Yeah.
I'm just trying to gather my thoughts really, even still, because it's just so like it's so
I'm still not
weird.
over it. It was a shock to absolutely everybody, especially considering she was out and about doing things like
Literally.
days prior. I had met her in Memphis days prior, and so yeah, when she passed away, nobody saw that coming, and I
Yeah.
think it hit us all very hard as a community. And also, I always think back to about how like Maggie and myself are young Elvis fans, right? So we were not alive for any of Elvis's life, but then we were not there to witness his passing either, like,
Yeah.
and the events surrounding that. So it's been very surreal, still is very surreal to be witnessing like how Lisa's passing has been like responded to, and
Mm.
um just like how it's been, I don't know, watching it play out like in the news with like the press from the book. I never even like expected a book, honestly. Like I've never
No,
expected
I
anything
didn't.
like this.
Yeah, when it was announced, I was like, that's so amazing that she was lucky enough
Yeah.
to be able to not only like have the recordings and things, but also have in place like her daughter to be able to do it for her.
Mhm.
And I just, not to relate everything back to Elvis, but I do just think of Elvis because
Yeah.
he never got that opportunity to tell his own story in his words. I know
Right.
there's various like footage of him trying to like piece it together for people, but he just never got the chance. And I think in that time as well, like autobiographies and things were just like few and far between. Like now everyone has an autobiography. So
Right.
it's just, there's so many different factors why he didn't get to do that. And I'm so happy in a way that Lisa like lives on through this book, as cheesy as that sounds, but it literally is true.
Yeah. I really respected to oh, like Riley, when she's promoting this book, was saying like that her like motive with it in finishing it was to make her mother a well-rounded
Yeah.
human being, like a person, like make her more understood and tell her story in a
Mhm.
way that made her seem like she was a human being.
Yeah.
And that is something that like I'm always work towards in my work with Elvis and what I do online and everything like that, because he never got the chance, and he never, like, Lisa was 9, girl, when he died. So it's like he never
Right.
had that opportunity to share his
Mhm.
his story the way he wanted it to be told in
Yeah.
such a beautiful way. Like what a privilege like it is
Mhm.
to have your story told in a way that promotes your understanding for the world as a overall like misunderstood person. I feel like Lisa,
Yeah.
like her dad, was a very misunderstood individual for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
Um, so just, I mean, I'm sure we'll say it a lot throughout the episode, but like, thank you so much to Riley for like
Oh my
respecting her
god.
mom's wishes and
Yeah,
carrying
she did an
on.
amazing job.
Yeah,
And I loved instantly to just go into it, I feel like.
yeah,
But like instantly I love the style of the book. And this is something that's been done before, but like the switching between the two voices and the two perspectives all the time. Like I liked
yes,
that a lot. Obviously if spoiler alert, like obviously a ton of spoilers in this video.
yeah. Spoilers in this
Um
if you haven't read it, for sure.
yeah, but I liked that obviously because they were voice recordings from Lisa, that even if you whether you listen to the audiobook or whether you listen just read the book, you can
Mhm.
get a sense of her voice and like what she was trying to put across. And then I loved that Riley, yes, like steps back and allows her to say everything like that, but then will, like she said, fill in the gaps for her mom and be like, you know, I don't know, it's just a nice style of book and I just appreciate that. And the way that she doesn't try to correct her mom or like
Right.
make her sound different than she was or like take out any imperfections, which is what a lot of people tend to do when it comes to like autobiographies. And I guess ghostwriting isn't the right word because she didn't ghostwrite it, she
Right.
co-wrote it. But
Hmm.
like that idea of like trying to keep someone's reputation intact or trying to, I don't know, it's her mum, and she is protective of her obviously throughout, but she doesn't try to lie or like
Right.
make anything that it wasn't. Does that make sense? I don't know. I like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I do like really I don't know, cherish the fact that like Riley like took her mom's tapes, like transcribed them and then
Yeah.
put them, and
It's just a
that was,
beautiful thing.
yeah, like, girl, again, like a privilege for that, but then she didn't like alter that in any way,
Mhm.
like any huge way, right? Maybe for like understanding, like add in a word here or there, whatever, like that goes
Right.
without saying. But like she, though, that's Lisa's
Mhm.
talking,
You
and
can
like
tell, and
that's
that's
right.
beautiful.
Right, right. That's her story. She's telling us her
Mhm.
story. And then where Riley fills in, it's like, "Oh, I had a memory of this," or like, "I really
Yeah.
like that part." We were talking about this before, but like how
Yeah.
she said those years after the twins' birth when her mom was really struggling,
Yeah.
like Riley put some good
What's it
good
called?
stuff into there because like she was like, "My mom was having such a hard time
Mhm.
remembering the good, so I
Yeah.
want to highlight the good from that period of time."
Yeah. There's a whole chapter. What's it called? Like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
Um, and it just shows how close they were and how Riley was the perfect person to do this for her.
Right.
Um, because it's like, yeah, my mom was going through it while recording these tapes, as anyone would be with everything that was going on.
Uh-huh.
But I don't want her to be remembered as just this sad person, because we did have good times. And I really like that,
Right.
because I think, again, thinking back to Elvis and how people portray him, I think it's harder to do because, again, they weren't in that similar process of, like, Elvis wasn't writing his book with somebody.
Right.
But like the way Elvis is portrayed, a lot of people don't take into consideration, you know, his state of mind at all times, or what he was going through, or like have that perspective at least.
Mhm.
And I think it was the perfect like pairing to have both of them like talking it out. And I really
Yeah.
liked the parallels too of how Riley grew up versus how Lisa grew up, and obviously that's how Elvis influenced both of their like
Yeah.
have painting style and things like
Yeah.
the go-karts, and how she created that world for them. And I just thought that was really sweet. So things like that are nice to see.
Yeah, I saw an interview, speaking of that, with Riley, where she was talking, like, somebody had asked the interview had asked her, um, like, "Do you feel distant from, like, your grandfather's legacy because you
Mm,
weren't obviously there for it?" And she was like, No, I feel very connected to him because of my mom and because my mom
yeah.
raised us on a lot of, like, her upbringing from him. It's like it was such like a
Yeah.
generational thing where like the food that they ate or like the jokes or the places they would go and spend holidays, like things
Yeah.
like that, were all because of Elvis. So you can see how much Lisa like loved her
Oh,
dad's side of the family, but also the way like Elvis raised her because she carried that. Like the way that
yeah.
she talked to her kids, like she used that baby talk with Riley and
Yeah.
Ben. And then Riley now uses it with Tupelo, and it's like
Oh,
that's
there was a line, she mothers my daughter through me.
yes.
So beautiful and so
Yeah.
nice to think that like she has that really nice immense connection, because
Yeah.
I don't know, like not going into this book, I had like preconceived notions about Elvis's fatherhood, but just at the beginning of like my Elvis journey, like years and years ago when I was a kid,
Yeah.
you think like the stereotype, like, well, if you're a rock star, like how are you going to be there for your family, let alone your
Yeah, more so
child?
absent.
Exactly, like, and that just
Right.
makes sense, and that's just something you sort of accept about that person, if that makes sense, because it's like, well, that is logical, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's not nice to think about, but like, yeah. So it was really nice to see and hear anecdotes, some anecdotes I haven't heard before.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot.
about
Yeah.
Elvis, and that was really nice. And I loved how she spoke about him. And I was talking to one of my friends who read like June's book with me, or like Priscilla's book or Linda's book with me. And she said, like, how does she describe his like parenting skills? And I was like, he's literally like flawless in
Yeah.
her mind. And I
Yeah.
just loved that that was the takeaway. Like she says, there was a really interesting like parallel or like opposite line, because she says about Priscilla, I always felt she didn't want me, in
Mhm.
like, I think it's like page 7 I have written down here. But then
Yeah.
later on about Elvis, I wrote this down. I was like, it's the complete opposite. It was like, if there was only one thing I was sure of, it was that I was loved
I
by
was
my
loved by
dad.
my dad.
So there's like, it's so nice yet sad. Yes, it is a sad book, and
Yeah,
like we'll get into that.
for
But like,
sure.
it's nice that she sort of clears that up in a way for anyone who doubted that he was there for her, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Well,
I love
that's
that.
something I always get that about Lisa too, because I take what she said like as an adult, she said a lot of things about Elvis and a lot of things about the people surrounding him, like his friends,
Yeah.
things, like she has her own opinions, as she should. But then when I like use them as credibility factors or whatever and things that I post, I always get like, well, she was 9. Like, how much do you remember when you're 9? Like all those things. And it's like she she remembered a lot. Like
Yeah.
she
You
and it's
would.
har you would. I mean, it's an extraordinary life. Like, you
Yeah.
don't it's not a normal childhood, and it, as we could tell, like, shaped her entire
Yeah.
world after. Like, her childhood shaped everything about her.
Absolutely. And I think
So
you can tell the way she talks, she's being so genuine. Like, she doesn't try and fill in the gaps. Things she doesn't know, she says, "Oh, I can't remember that. I wish I could." But like, she doesn't try to fill in those gaps where she can't remember. She's
yes.
being so real. And I think it's sort of a bittersweet thing, because I think that's because the lack of time. I think
Mhm.
if maybe she had like so much time, things would come up and things would be remembered, or
Yeah.
sadly, but publishers would be like, just put in that this happened, or just like fill in this gap and put something in,
Right.
because that's what people want. But I sort of liked, and I think this might come up as an even criticism of the book for people who don't really get the way it was done, but like I think it might come up of like how scattered, quote unquote, it is. Like she goes from one memory to the next, but I like that. I think that is in tune with her voice and the style and the situation of the recording,
For
and
sure.
like her actual memory, she's flicking from memory to memory because that is all she had of her dad. So I see what you're saying about like not you specifically, but I see what people say like, oh, she's not credible, she was a child. It's like, but that
Right.
makes her so credible because like she had that connection that no one else had to him, and like, girl,
Right.
we should care what she says about that. And she is so genuine with those memories, and it's a vulnerable thing. Like, I don't know, like, I don't know, she just like, it must have been re-traumatizing to relive a lot of the book. Not
I'm
only the
sure.
stuff about Elvis, but so much of it is dark. So it's like,
Yeah.
girl, I wouldn't like go as far as to be like she's not a reliable source. In that case, she's more reliable. She's literally like tearing her heart out, saying things that she
Yeah.
doesn't have to share, like any
Right.
of this, but
Right.
she wants to. Like she said, she wants to help
Help people who might have
people,
gone through similar
and
things.
I think it will. I
Yeah.
really liked it. I'll say that. I'll say that. Like first
Right.
impressions, I loved this book, and yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
to your point too about how like going back to how you were saying like she said from the get-go like she remembered her mom telling her that she tried to starve herself, she tried to like I
Mm,
think fall off a horse or something like that, like just so that she wouldn't have her,
yeah,
she didn't
Priscilla.
want her from, yeah, she didn't want her from the get-go for that image, for the sake of that image that she had of being Elvis Presley's wife or
Yeah,
whatever. But then like her, like you're saying, that parallel statement of her saying, um if there's one thing I was sure of in my entire life, it's
yeah,
that I was loved by my dad. And for those people who are saying like, "Oh, like, well, how much time could she have spent with him if he was gone all the time?" Like that speaks volumes to me because if being with your mom, who you were with most of the time, I mean, she spent a
yeah,
lot. She went to school like during the year, things like that. Like she was always with Priscilla. So,
yeah,
but she goes as far to say like but I knew, like, the only thing I was sure of is I was loved by my dad. So even though
yeah,
she didn't, like, live with him 24/7, she wasn't with him all the time, the thing she wanted to make clear is that her relationship with her dad was probably the strongest. I mean, besides her, like, her kids, but, like, the strongest that she
right.
had in her whole life. Like, and
Yeah,
they weren't together all the time. So it's like, that's your credibility right there. Like, she
exactly.
if her dad was an absent father figure, I don't think she would have gone as far as to say, like, I would have, what did she say? Like, if you would have asked me to cut off my own foot, I would have done it just to make him
Yeah,
happy. Like,
yeah.
she
And I
loved
think,
him.
yeah, it comes from trusting that person. Like he never
Mhm.
did her wrong. He never prioritized anything above her. And I don't want to throw Priscilla under the bus too much because she already does that for me. Hello. Like
Well,
she
true.
she does get brutally honest about Priscilla, and I liked that a lot. It made her more credible to me. Again, it was refreshing because a lot of people seem to, I don't know, either completely bash her unjustified, so it just sort of breaks down the argument because it's like, well, let's be real, what, like, give us the facts, not the emotions.
Right.
Or people just put her on this pedestal of like she was the love of his life and all that, and like neither of those
Right.
can be true. But hearing it from Lisa's mouth, it's like
Mhm.
really nice because yeah, like I don't know, so I don't want to completely bash her, and I think because I'm not a Priscilla fan, I will say that, but I don't dislike her. I don't like her. She's very neutral to me because I do think she obviously, like with the, we're saying like trying to preserve her image while she was pregnant, which obviously cannot be any good for the baby. I do
Mhm.
think a lot of that is from the time as well. Like women were
Yeah.
seen as like, oh, you got to do this, you got to look good, and while doing it. And I think
Right.
it is such a horrible thing. But yeah, for a child to hear that and read about it in your book, Priscilla, that's not nice. Like, and knowing that
Right.
she wasn't wanted, that affects you deeply. Like, of course. So I'm not saying I see both sides because I don't see Priscilla's side. I do just think I feel bad for her, but I don't agree with
Yeah.
her. Does that make
Well,
sense?
yeah, it totally does. Like, Also, another factor I thought of too is like Priscilla was a young mom, like, and
Yeah,
and Riley brings that up too, like generations of young moms in their family, like Gladys, and then like Priscilla,
and then
Lisa, like,
Lisa. Yeah.
yeah, everybody. There was like that line, but then like I think it was Riley or Lisa, one of them said like at a certain point you just look at what you've had done to you and you decide that it's not going to continue and you're not going to carry that out. So Lisa,
Exactly.
one of the things I loved so much about the book, and a huge like the heart of this book, I think, is really about how amazing, I don't even know a right word for it, but how strong, how beautiful of a mother figure she was. And so
Oh
she,
my
I
God,
think,
yeah.
yeah, I think she really like took um her childhood and like one thing that like I don't know, always, I don't know what the word is, but it always makes me love Lisa more because
Yeah.
I think she's gone through so much grief, so much hardship, so
Mhm.
much trauma, everything in her life, starting from age 9, maybe even before that, like craziness. She could have been like so jaded, so against everybody, so against the
Yeah.
world, so, a hermit, but she took what she went through from
Yeah.
her sad childhood. She like said, "No, I'm gonna raise my kids and, love them, make sure that they know they're
Yeah.
loved and wanted and valued," to like losing her son and wanting to start a grief group and having people over
Yeah.
and like wanting to do a podcast, like wanting to start things to help. And like, yes, it took her a long time to get there, but like she took her pain and her grief and her trauma and like, oh, she like worked it in her
Yeah.
soul to
Used
push
it.
out, yeah, like to aid other people who
Yes.
she saw something in, like,
Mm.
I know that you need help, or like those people who would come to her and say like, your music saved me, like I wanted to die and your
Yeah.
music
Oh
saved
my
me,
gosh.
like, I don't know, sorry, that was like a long-winded
No.
statement, but
Yeah.
it's just something that I love so much about her. I think the thing I love most about her, honestly.
It's great. Like she does cherry pick the best things about what she could remember, like Elvis doing for her, and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this, but without the XYZ, you know what I mean? So
Right.
that was always nice. And yeah, like you said, she could have gone down that path, and she did. She had a phase with drugs, and she had a phase with, I mean, when she was a teenager or whatever. So it's like, yeah, you could see how that could have, her life could have ended way sooner than it
Yeah.
did. Um, and it still shouldn't have ended when it did, obviously, but it's
Yeah.
it's it's one of those bittersweet things. It's like, well, she did all she could and like
Mhm.
tried her fucking best. Sorry to
Yeah.
swear on the Mary channel.
No,
Um,
swear it up, girl. Swear it up.
but going into it, we only know so much about her, right? We only have
Right.
interviews. We only have where she's always just sort of, she's very sassy. She's very all these things. She is vulnerable and she can be, but like hearing from her daughter as well, how it was the parts with the how she raised me and all that. That was just nice
Mhm.
to hear because it made me think of my relationship with my mom and how close I am with my mom.
Yes.
And I was like,
Yes.
oh, like I love that because she said she lived with her until she was 25 or something.
Mhm.
I think she said Riley said that, and I was like, that's so nice for Lisa because obviously, if she given the choice, I think would have stayed with her dad, as she says she would have. Like,
Mhm.
she
Yeah, she
didn't
always
want to
wanted to.
move from Memphis even when he died. Like, she just wanted to
Right.
be around that, and she used to go and lie in his bed even when there were tours downstairs because she just wanted that closeness with him. And
Right.
she wanted that while he was alive, even. So that's not even because he died. Like, she wanted never to leave him. That part where Priscilla calls and says, no, she needs to come back to school as a mom, yes, valid, but like when Elvis just cried because he doesn't want
He
her to
wanted
leave,
her.
I love that. And I love how much she reiterated, my dad didn't want to leave me, or he made that space for me. He wanted this for me. And it's like, I love hearing that she knows so solid, so confidently. Like, no,
Mhm.
like I was that priority and she feels it so deeply and it's so true for her. And it's true, yes, but like you hear it from so many people and you hear it from the wrong people too much that no, I was the one in his life to blank blank blank. And it's always like his
Yes.
his friends who, yes, took advantage of him, or his girlfriend who left him, or they didn't end up together. So it's always coming from a source you're a bit like, girl, like no, like you weren't it. But
Yeah.
from Lisa, it's so pure and it's so there, and she's not trying to convince you because she knows, like it doesn't matter what you think. And
Doesn't
I
matter what we
love
think.
that this
Exactly.
book has no, like, it doesn't tiptoe around like or try to persuade you of anything. I like that. Like it's just saying it how it is, saying the facts, and that's so her.
Yeah, I was about to say that's
I love
exactly who
that.
she was.
Yeah.
She doesn't BS it. Like she just
No.
tells it how it is and she does
Yeah.
whatever she wants. Like if she's gonna say something about somebody, about how she feels about somebody. I know this was a point that we wanted
Hmm.
to bring up too, because there has been, and I'm sure there will be more, um, audience reception to some of the things that she said in the book. And I just applaud her for, first of all, like stating her opinion of these people in a
Yeah.
graceful, professional,
Classy,
not like
unapologetic.
unapologetic. Like, I'm going to say what my memories are, what my
Yeah.
feelings are. And that's
Yeah.
so hard to do. Like, that's something that human beings, it's just common knowledge that we struggle with that.
Yeah.
Like, you want to say something to somebody to keep peace with the situation, you know what I mean? But she didn't, like, but she wasn't nasty about it either. She was just
No.
saying her
The facts.
feelings. Yeah,
Yeah.
her feelings for those people. And I feel like that's completely valid for
Hmm.
her to be able to do that. As this is her book, her
Yeah.
story, her memories, her childhood feelings,
Hmm.
she's enclosing, not
Yeah.
really regarding anybody else's
Exactly.
opinions
100%.
of her.
And I don't know how much detail we're even gonna go into this because I don't even want to give it uh,
Yeah,
like too much attention. But
correct.
yeah, there were people who it's always the same people, right? Who they want to be in the movie of Elvis. They want to be in the
Yes.
right. They just
Yeah.
think about me, and
Themselves.
so many people are saying that, like, and seeing that. I think for the first time, actually,
Mm.
how insensitive it can be, especially with this book being a post death book. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Post, you know,
Oh, if she was still living, I highly doubt that these
oh,
people would have anything to say. I think that they would
exactly. And
not say anything.
it's the same with Elvis. And it's just so sad to see that cycle just continue because
Yes.
Lisa has so much in common with Elvis anyway. If you've read this book, you see that, oh my God, like
Yeah.
towards the end, it was just getting one after the other thing. And I was just like, come on, like it's so hard to break that cycle. And I think she did her fucking best to like with raising her kids and with being um just try to break that cycle of
Yeah.
parenting but also drug addictive personality and things like that. She tried to curb it so much and like help
Yeah.
herself so much. But you see it with her relationship with Michael Jackson and like how the fame was comforting and like his personality reminded her of that. And it's like we all do that. That's just human nature, is to try and recreate what we're comfortable with. It makes perfect
Absolutely.
sense.
Absolutely.
Um, and so now seeing it, the same people from God over 50 years ago coming out of
Yeah.
the woodwork and saying the same things they said about Elvis, but about Lisa after she's gone. Like, you don't even have the presence within yourself to say it when this person's alive. You can only say it when they're gone because you have no legs to stand on. It's always the same people. And anyway,
Right.
um, the
No, but
most,
sorry.
no,
I'm so sorry. I was just gonna add in, she
yeah,
talked about that so much in like
yes,
interviews and things like that too, like about her dad. She's like, these people, these same people,
yeah,
always dragging him down, always making him be this villainous monster, always, and he's not here to
yes.
defend himself. And these same people are doing it to her, doing it to
But
his daughter.
with the same breath, they want so badly to insert themselves in that person's life or associate with their fame or celebrity or whatever it is. It's like,
Right.
well, which is it? Do you want to drag him
Right.
through the coals, or do you want to be, I was the love of his life, just me, no one else?
Right. His
Which
lover.
is it? It's always just
They
this.
just won, they just
Oh,
won the what's the word? The
it, association.
yeah, they just want their part of the story to be
Yes.
magnified. They want that
Oh,
recognition,
absolutely.
recognition.
Was it
Like,
Sally Hodell that said like people
yes.
amplify their place in history and this person's story just to seem more interesting or more relevant? And it's literally that.
Yes.
Like, I mean, in one of, I won't even say, but like they're promoting their books. They are literally promoting their books in the same breath of rest in peace, Lisa. I hope you read my book. Excuse me? it's so strange. And then
Ugh.
on top of it, coming for Lisa Marie's mental health as like justification for
Why it's not true.
why she's lying, or
Yes.
and also I don't know where the word lie comes from. Anything to do with this. Nothing in here is not true because it's all her feelings, it's all her perspective, her opinions.
It's
How
right.
can you
It's
say that's not true? It's what I thought, what she felt. Like,
it's literally her feelings. It's
what?
her perception. It's through her eyes. So then we could also flip the table. Flip the table. We could
The
flip it.
table.
We could flip that table, girl, and we could
Yeah.
say, okay, well then everything you say is also false because I don't agree with how
Hello.
you feel. I don't agree with how you feel. So it's
Yeah.
false. It's like you can't do that. And really coming for um her mental health, like you say, is
Disgusting.
such a low blow. And then you wonder, like when you do things like that and you come for her in like a disgusting manner like that, but she didn't like me. I don't understand why she didn't like me. Girl, what do you mean? Like
Right.
you're literally like
Why
saying
would
horrible,
she like
nasty
you?
things. Right. You're saying horrible, nasty things about her after she's gone and she cannot
Yeah.
defend herself. But then you're saying it about how she said she didn't like you as a kid. But you're like, yes, you did like me. And honestly, you only didn't like me because you were on drugs. Like, what? That is not okay
Right.
to
That's the
say.
crazy part. That's the crazy part. Like you're mixing up timelines, you're mixing everything up. And then
Right.
I I don't know, edit this out if it's too far for the Mary channel. But
No, everything, nothing's too far from the Mary channel. Go
was
ahead.
it Ginger who said something like, I think outside influences just got to her or something? And it's like, there were nobody kept in contact with Lisa after Elvis died. Like, literally nobody.
She said that.
Like, I think, obviously Priscilla, girl. I was like, I think Priscilla, why did I say that? But like,
Her mom.
maybe, was it Jerry or something? Was
Yes, Jerry
working
Schilling.
for
Because
EPE or whatever.
yes, Lisa worked for
Fine.
Jerry for a while. Yeah.
Right. So one or two people and like her family, yeah. What
Right.
outside influences are you talking about? Because irrelevant. Like no one's sitting around talking about you like, let's make this up, let's make up a little story right now. No, like everyone corroborates it because it's true. Do you ever think like everyone's saying this about me and it's not true? No, if everyone's saying it separately,
If the
it
shoe
girl,
fits. If the
like the
shoe
shoe fits.
fits. But also like,
Oh, the shoe
sorry,
fits.
not to even not I'm not even gonna harp on this because what who cares? But like just one more
Right.
thing. Um the things that you're calling false, like you're like she all she said was like, oh, I think I listened in on like on a phone call one time and they were having
Yeah,
an
and they were
argument.
arguing.
So you're saying that you never argued? You in your own book you talk about how you argue. Like I don't understand. And how is that coming for you? How is that a job for you to say like I think I listened to my dad fight with his girlfriend once? Like
Right.
that's all
And
she
I side with
said.
my dad because I'm a 9. Like,
Correct. And I love my dad.
duh.
But then
And I'm
also
yeah,
as an adult looking back and saying like I don't really think that she was like a good fit for my dad because I knew my dad and I know
yeah,
her and I know how they were together because I was there. I personally just don't feel like they were a good fit. She didn't say anything crazy for you to be like,
right.
well, your mental health was bad, so you shouldn't be making any statements like
Oh, so crazy, so wild to say and just disgusting.
right.
And then on top of that, other like Lisa, why edit me out? But like
Oh, you're
Linda
good.
being like, oh,
Yes.
he was seeing me when he passed. I was like, okay,
He
calm down.
closed his eyes and with his last breath thought, I love Linda.
It's the description. It's so specific and
Yeah.
it's like delusion or I don't know what it is. It's shocking. I don't even want to
No,
like
we're done. And the thing is, I also will say this because we said it for Priscilla. I will say this too.
oh yeah.
Linda seems like a lovely person. Ginger, I don't know too much about her, but I don't. She's never killed anybody. Like I have nothing
Yeah,
against these
yeah.
people. Like I have nothing against you, girl.
Nothing.
But the problem is that you are saying problematic things about people that we view as our priority, right? Like in this case, Elvis and Lisa are the priority for us. And
Yeah.
so when you come and you like attack that in some way with like a weird statement like that, where it's just
Weird.
uncalled for, unnecessary, and read the room uncalled for, it's
Yeah.
like well, we're allowed to also have opinions about that and like talk about how that makes us feel. And that's all Lisa did. That's all we're doing. We're not
Yeah.
saying that these people are awful people. We're just saying that was a little bit like
Yeah. It's
insensitive.
just our perspective on their response because
Yes.
I honestly I didn't read this book and then think about Ginger or Linda or Mike Edwards. I didn't think about any
Yeah,
of these people that are now chiming in, piping up, defending them, coming so quick to defend themselves.
correct.
When half of them aren't even accused of anything, or like nothing crazy is even said about them. We'll get into Mike
Right,
Edwards, but
right.
it's
Yeah,
just so disgusting. And all these people have books with Elvis in the title. That's what's crazy. And their whole
yeah,
brand is based on knowing Elvis or being with Elvis at one point, and the whole reason we know about them and we even are saying this is because they're relating back
correct.
to Elvis.
Yeah,
And it's just so weird because every single one of these people has written something in their book that they've later said never happened, wasn't true, I didn't mean it.
yes.
Priscilla too, let's add her to the list. Um, has
Yep,
like took things back, and it's unfortunate we have to sit here and try to decipher what is true and what is false because none of these sources are reliable sources. You cannot tell
correct.
me I'm saying XYZ now, that's what's true. But when I said ABC before, that's not true. Excuse me? So what
Right.
I'm supposed to be a mind reader now? Like I'm supposed to know what's true and what's false from what you're saying? Why don't you just tell the truth and we would never have to have this discussion?
Well, people only they're only coming out and saying those things, and I'm talking about Mike Edwards here. They're
Oh,
only
well,
coming out and saying those things because they got found out, or like somebody else said something contradictory, or somebody else confirmed it, or something. Like, with Mike,
yeah.
I don't really understand though, because he wrote a whole book, and in great detail talked about in his book of how he had sexual feelings for Lisa when she was a
Mhm.
child. So, and now he's saying
Shocking.
like he was being forced to put that. Girl, nobody could force me to out myself as a pedophile. I'm sorry.
Nobody. And
What?
that's the tea. You outed yourself. Let's get up I have a little notes here.
Please take it
Um,
away.
so
Please
it
take it
says
away.
craving Lisa sexually. This is 1988. He said this when she was
Uh-huh.
not, or in 1998. This is when the book was published.
So for those of you who don't know,
Yeah.
if you haven't read the book or whatever, like Priscilla dated a guy named Michael Edwards. Um,
Yeah.
from the time,
I think it
do you
was
know the
from,
dates?
I think it was from 77 or 78 until 1984. And this was on and off, apparently.
Okay.
Because
So
it was,
after his death.
as Lisa puts it, a violent relationship
Yes,
between
there was,
him and Priscilla. I don't know if
yeah.
Priscilla's ever talked about that.
She No, because her book
No.
ends with Elvis
Yeah.
dying,
I
and
was gonna say I
like
vaguely remember her book, but it's all about her relationship with Elvis and nothing after
her
that, as
life
far as I
after.
know.
Right.
Um,
But
which
no,
is
she
the
was with
same.
this guy for a few years, and
Yeah.
according to Lisa, I mean, I've read Michael Edwards' book too. It's on my shelf, and I mean, he's just always been like, I've seen people throw that book in the trash in front of me. Like he's always been like a really weird person, and he
Yeah.
wrote a book like we're talking about, outing himself on all of these crazy claims,
Hmm.
crazy feelings, crazy. I mean, I don't do that lightly, girl, call people crazy, but like
No.
crazy because
Wild
like,
things to say.
yeah, Lisa
Yeah.
was a young girl, and by young girl I mean
Mhm.
like preteen. Like she's not even
Oh God, yeah. In 78, what was she? 10, 11?
10. 78, she would have been 10. She was 9
10
in 77.
years old. So he published a book, and in it he said, I have a little quote, that he
Yeah,
was
right.
craving Lisa sexually. That's how he puts it, girl. Um, and
Disgusting.
there's more details on that. I don't even want to get into that because it's wild.
Yeah.
I don't know why he says that. Like, it's so crazy that he just fully outs himself as a pedophile.
He goes above and beyond in his book, like talking about how she made him feel as a like 12, 13-year-old girl.
Hmm.
Craziness. And Lisa talks about it in that Howard Stern interview that she did in the early
Yes.
2000s or whatever. She talked
Yeah.
about, confirming. She never like went into detail either, and even in this book she doesn't go into great detail
No.
about what he did. But um yeah, like there's been multiple times over the years and years that she's brought him up, but now he's kind of saying like he was forced into putting those things into the book for
Yeah.
what? I don't know, but like
So
I don't
how
know.
he puts it is that this is a quote. he was encouraged to embellish a harmless anecdote about Lisa, and now he regrets doing that. Harmless? That's a stretch too far, my friend. I would say maybe pretend you took her to the zoo.
I was encouraged to make myself look like a person who should be locked behind bars for being a
Right,
pedophile for 12-year-old girls. So I did it. And I
right.
don't really know if it was a good decision. Like, what?
Nobody told you to put that in there at all.
No. Why would
Nobody.
they?
Are you kidding me? Like, that is the craziest excuse reason ever, just to blame it on the publishing. Like, that's so weird, whack. I don't
Also,
know.
even if they did do that, why would you do it? Why would you
Why
accept
is
that
that the
fate?
thing you think of? Why is that? Oh, make up an anecdote. Okay, I like kids. What?
Right? Like, that's
Excuse me?
crazy. That's crazy. That's
So,
crazy.
so shocking. And a lot of
Yeah.
people were talking about how the US version of the written copy of the book
Yes.
um differs from the UK version, and people were like wondering why that is, and I saw a few posts about it, and I did wonder myself because I heard that interview, and in the UK version of the book she alludes to it. She doesn't say that anything sexual happens. She doesn't say it doesn't happen, but she says he um spanked her on the butt or something to the point where she got bruises, which
Yes.
of
And
course is
also
still crazy.
talks about how he would like touch her inappropriately while she's
Yeah.
in bed, like those kind of
Mhm.
things.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like go into her room at night, and then Priscilla, I guess, just wouldn't react necessarily, or would say, "Well, why did that happen? Like, why would he do that?" and stuff like
But she
that.
would also like make him, sorry, this is what got me so good because I was like, what? Like, she would make him like come into the room and apologize.
Priscilla
Is
would.
Yes, is what Lisa said.
Oh,
Like, Priscilla would like make him come into the room, sit him down, and make him say sorry to Lisa, but then like still stay with him.
that is so crazy to me, and I that's the part where it gets a little fuzzy because it's like, why would she, knowing that,
Right.
stay? But this is already, as we know, a physically abusive relationship, so maybe
Right.
that ties into the dynamic there. Also, what from what Lisa wrote, they were together just the worst couple, and were
Yeah.
a little bit unhinged from what she was saying. So that's really unfortunate that Priscilla knew about it. To think that Priscilla knew about it and it was carrying on, um,
Mhm.
is really strange. And I don't like to think about that at all.
I feel really bad for Lisa, I do, and I mean, girl, I feel bad for Priscilla too. No one deserves to be in that kind of relationship, and I can understand
Sure,
it's not black and white. Like, you can't just say like, "Well, you should have left." Like, there,
sure,
whatever.
but
But
you should have.
if you, girl, I feel like that's the last straw. Like, if you come to the attention that your boyfriend is sexually abusing your
Mhm.
child, you get
Yeah.
away regardless of not like nothing. Like, you
Mhm.
you leave, you go, and like
Yeah. And
that's
obviously
really upsetting.
Priscilla had a skewed view anyway of relationships, clearly. Um
Correct.
and it's so sad to be like, I don't know. I don't like making excuses for Priscilla, because, girl, that's your child. And at the end of the day, you could say anything. You could say, well, she was young, or well, her model of relationships wasn't good. Yeah, okay. You don't stay, though. You don't let this
Yeah.
happen. And it does suck that this was allowed to happen.
Even if you even not oh, girl, I don't know. Even if you are young, like, I get it. I do understand. Like, yes, she was in one relationship, or she was in minimal relationships prior to this, and like she probably did not know. She was very sheltered in terms of like how she lived with Elvis, things like that. Like, yes, I get those things. She was young, all of that jazz. I do understand she was trying to figure out her life while also being a mother, like in charge of another life, so that's
Right.
never an easy thing. But then also, like, it is just instinctual, like, this is my baby and she's
Yeah.
being hurt,
And
this
you
is
know
my
what? Considering other things she said about Priscilla, it was really surprising because Priscilla always seemed to want, like, in a stricter parent way, what was quote
Yeah.
unquote best. You know what I mean?
Best for
She
her.
wanted her back at school, back doing these things. What? Yeah, I think later on that became very misguided. The different schools she was putting her in, the boarding schools, that was very misguided of her. However, you could see the perspective of, well, I want this to happen. I want her to be this. But at what point is that all appearances? Like Priscilla, like
Right.
Lisa says, that was all for show. And behind the scenes, this was actually what was going on. And she didn't want me, or I didn't feel wanted. And
Right.
that, you know, she's covering in this way for her
Right.
boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's layered. Like you said, it's not black and white. There's so much to it. And it just feels so bad for Lisa at the end of the day. It all falls on her, and it just sucks.
Right.
It just
And
sucks.
yeah. Yes. And it affected her whole life. Like, I just
Oh
feel
my
so bad.
god.
And then I also feel like I can't even imagine, girl, what would have happened if Elvis knew. Like, if I truly believe he would have killed him, like dead, killed him
100%
dead,
dead.
killed,
Dead.
absolutely. It would have never
Because
happened. And
it
like,
would,
oh,
yeah.
and like
And
that had to have gone through Lisa's head too. Like, if my dad was here, this would never, like, if my dad
this
was here, I
wouldn't
want my
even
dad.
be
I want my
happening.
dad.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
that's
And
heartbreaking.
she said, like, even after he died when she was a kid, she was like, why has this happened? Why have you done this? Because it literally, I don't want to say it ruined her life, because she did have a good life. You know, eventually, and she had good moments and everything. But it changed her life in every way, shape, form, everything.
Right.
And I do think that's why she kept going back so often in her memory, in her mind, in relationships, in physical form, going to his house over and over. And that's what's so sad. Like, she seeks that connection that she lost, and it just sucks. And I just want to quickly say about the USA versus UK thing, just so we don't lose that thread,
Yeah.
and
Sorry.
maybe put this back. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or not, or just not include it. I don't care. But
No, we are.
but some people were asking why, and I did look into it just to touch on it a little bit, because it is interesting that in the US version of the physical book, she details this allegation, I guess we have to say, against Mike Edwards. And in the UK version, it's almost redacted. It's not in there. It's sort of alluded to, but not really. I mean, she says, oh, the things that happen, but yeah, it's not in depth. And I just looked up, why is that? Because people were asking, and it's essentially a difference in law between what you can publish in the US versus what you can publish in the UK. And in the UK, if she had said blank did XYZ, for example, he could sue the publisher or Riley. At this point, in this case, he would sue Riley, or because he couldn't sue her, because she's gone. But it's to do with burden of proof, which is just basically means who has to give proof that they did or didn't do something. In the USA, if you claim something against me, I have to prove I didn't do it, which is easy. I didn't do it. Like, how do you prove you didn't do something?
Right.
It's this sort of easy exchange. Whereas here in the UK, the person who says you did something has to prove it.
And she's not here too.
And she's not here. And also, even if she was here, unfortunately, where's the evidence that this happened? I 100% believe her, but it is alleged at the end of the day, because there's no photos, there's no witness, there's no, God knows, Priscilla hasn't spoken up about it. He did no time for it. And it's just one of those sad things that the law's different. The law here is to protect people against, like, bad reputation and journalism and things, which in some cases helps. Like, there's examples, like Cliff Richard was accused of, like, having crimes. Cliff Richard was accused of crimes back in the day, and he sued and won against the, like, BBC, I think it was, who said that these crimes had took place because they couldn't prove it. So that's why those laws exist. So it does make sense. Basically, it's redacted from the UK version so that he can't sue, essentially, because there's no proof in the matter, whereas in the US, he can't sue, essentially. So that's the only difference, and that's the
Okay.
only reason. Cut around all of that and just put that in.
Girl, no, that is so interesting though, because I didn't even know that was a thing until I saw somebody who lived, I think in Ireland or something.
Mm,
I don't know, like overseas. They posted like, wait, my book has missing chunks or something. And
right.
I sent it to you and you were like researching it and figuring out
Mm,
why and all that jazz. And I actually thought that Michael Edwards was British for a minute. Like I thought he was
oh,
English. And I thought that
yeah,
had something to do with it and like the
maybe
law
that
and
would make
everything.
sense.
He's
But he's
not though.
not?
He's fully American. No, he's not British. But like in the book, I thought they talked about going to England together and like things like that. So I was like, oh, he's British,
He
but
just lived
he's
lived here.
yeah, they're just rich. They like to go to
Right. They were
England.
going to like France and everywhere.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that is helpful to know because I know a lot of people. I mean, everybody's reading this book,
I
but also
wondered
like
I even wondered about it because I remember that Howard Stern interview and I remember being like, was it Howard Stern? Or Howie
yeah,
Mandel?
I think so. Howard Stern, right, with the black
Yeah. Or
crazy
I
hair.
remember that interview regardless, and I was like, wow, she didn't say anything, and then I was like, no, she must have. And when
Yeah.
you said, oh, this is in the book, and I was like, oh, that's why.
Yeah,
Um,
she went into more detail in this book than she had ever
mhm,
gone into before, obviously.
yeah,
And maybe for those reasons, I don't know. Um,
mhm,
but yeah, it was just that was a very dark part of the book for I think us and
yeah,
many other people, and I just feel so bad for her. I do.
yeah. And
Like
I'm glad she
losing that
shared
safe
it
parent. Yeah,
in a
but
way because it's sort of, even though she didn't know, of course, that she was going to pass away, it's nice to think that for Riley too, that she got everything off her chest and like
yeah,
made peace with it in that way, as horrible
yeah,
as that seems. But like, you know, it's such a nice gift for her to give her mom as like this last thing, like the send off almost, and she did it so quickly. I will say, like, I admire how, and I don't mean that in like it wasn't rushed at all, but I mean that in
mhm,
like an admirable way. Like she turned this out as soon as she could because
yeah,
she understands she can't take anything for granted now. We don't have all the time in the world, as she now horribly knows. Like, and that's what you have to admire about Riley. She really like, and she's always defended her mom. Defended, that's not even the right word, but she's always
yeah.
supported her, and I really like this collab between them.
Yeah, I don't know. Like growing up as an Elvis fan, I was always asked what I thought of Riley and like, the grandkids and all those things. And
Yeah,
I never really like had an answer just because
there
I don't
was
know, I
nothing to
liked
think. Like,
yeah, there was really no. Like I didn't really until Daisy Jones and the Six, I never really like followed Riley's career. Like I had never
exactly.
and not for lack of, not caring, but just
Yeah.
I was an Elvis fan, so like I was into Elvis. But
Mhm.
getting to read this book, I really feel like I have a better appreciation and understanding
Oh my
for
god.
yes, of course, Lisa, but then also Riley and like
Yeah,
how she was
amazing.
affected, yeah, by her mom's love because of her dad, like everything. It's just like it ties all together.
Yeah,
And I watched that special that Riley did, that Oprah special, and she was saying like ultimately, yes, like Graceland and the estate like is mine now.
yeah. That's
Um
what's comforting, is that we know it's in her hands and the right hands,
yeah,
clearly.
right, and she did say something along the lines of like, and I have every intention of like doing things the way that my mom would have wanted them done. And so that
Amazing.
gives me a lot of like peace of mind and just like comfort knowing that, because I
Hmm.
think when Lisa died, everybody was like thinking like, oh, what's going to happen now? What's going to
Yeah.
happen? But Riley, I mean, she loved her mom, like she loved her mom, and of course she would do things the way that she would know her mom would be proud of. Like,
Mhm.
and Lisa always did things the way that she wanted her dad to be proud of. So it's like again that invisible like thread of connection between that family and the love that they all
Mhm.
had for each other is just like really heartwarming.
I love it.
Yeah. Very, very sweet. Oh, it's good. It's
I
good.
do love it. I'm just looking and like thinking what else is there to say. Like, there's so
I mean, we could sit here chapter by chapter and just go through it. Obviously, we won't do that, but
Right.
like it, the book was just. I've read many a memoir, girl, and I'm not even just saying this because I love Lisa, but like it was just so well done, so
Mm.
so raw and real, and like no holds,
Oh my
no,
god, yeah.
what the heck is that phrase? No
Holds
holds
barred,
bar.
bar,
Yeah, that.
hold bar.
No holds hold barred, no whatever, you know what I mean? No holds barred.
Mm,
Yeah. That
you
thing,
got it.
but just like literally zero things like swept under the rug, zero like unapologetically, and it's just that's how she was, and I
Yeah.
think that her spirit, like her personality really emulated off of, I think that's the right word, but just off of the words of this book, and like it, you could capture her essence through reading this. Like when I
Oh my god,
finished
yeah.
this, I was like, I just feel so connected to her in ways that I didn't even know
Mm.
I needed to be. Like they did a really good job with it.
Yeah, I know. And I read the book as soon as it got to my house because I was like only not only because of course I wanted to read it, but because in the
Mhm,
Elvis community,
mhm,
everyone reads stuff as soon as it's out, of course, and like
literally.
wants to get it out, and people were already talking about it. And I already saw headlines like about like spoiling different things in the book,
Yeah,
and I was like, I have to read it now.
yeah,
Um uh and a lot of the stuff it's sad, but it's just what happens, has been like
mhm,
immediately sensationalized for headlines and things like that, like the Michael Jackson stuff. Like plenty of people read this just for Michael Jackson's
for
section in
sure,
it,
for sure.
which makes sense. Like, girl, we're all here for Elvis too, but like,
Mhm, mhm.
um but the stuff about Ben and how obviously when I first saw that headline that was like, oh, Lisa Marie kept her son's body or something in the house for 2 months, I was like, oh my gosh, like I fell for the clickbait, if you will, or the whatever it's
Mhm,
called. Because I was like, oh
mhm.
my gosh, like, wow. And I didn't judge her for that because grief is so different for everybody. And like, you either understand that or you don't understand that. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things.
Absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
but when I read the book and I read how it was actually done. And yes, she did keep his body, but she kept it in a respectful, normal sort of way. Like, I don't
Yes.
know. When people say things like that, you imagine like, oh my God, like he's in the bathtub rotting or something. Like you do, your mind goes there because that's what they're making it out to sound like. That's what they're painting it as.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, you have that image of like she kept his body in the house, like what, that's
yeah,
the whole point of that headline, right? But then when you
yep.
read it and actually she was just being with him and like having him there, like I almost pictured like a Snow White type of, like a clear coffin, you know what I mean? Not that
Yeah,
that was the setup, but that tribute, you know what I mean? Like I just want to
yeah.
see him, I just want to see him as he was and preserved and in this, and it was beautiful. I was like, you know what, like for people crapping on her for that, or like thinking that that's weird, or that
You don't
I'm like, you
understand.
don't understand grief, because yeah, not
No.
everybody does that. And I think it's a privilege to be able to do that because she had access to um the literal like means to do that, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and his body and
Well,
everything.
right, and also I think they explained that it was because, which the headlines would not do, or the clickbait would not do, but they explained that it was because they had planned on moving him.
Yeah,
Like, I think, like, the funeral's in Hawaii, but, like, of course, he was laid to rest in Graceland, like, they
yeah.
had plans to move him, and they couldn't do that for, like, a certain amount of weeks, and Lisa, being the mom that she was, and after reading this book, I completely understood her decision
Mm,
to have done that because of her relationship with Ben, and how it immediately made sense to me. I was like, of course, like she would want to do that, but she just wanted to keep
100%.
she wanted to know where his body was. She wanted to know how he's being taken care of. She wanted to take care of
Yeah,
herself as the mother that she was. And so that's all she did. She cared for him in the
yeah,
way that like the funeral home would have, but she didn't want that. She wanted to be like, well, I don't
yeah,
know how long it's going to be, so I'd rather just have him with me. And so she took care of it, and she did it herself, and like it's sitting with him, like, that's no different from when a family sits with an open casket at a funeral for
absolutely.
hours, like, I just
Yeah,
and, like, it's really sad, like, of course it will happen, sensationalism, like, of course,
That's
but
just the way it is, yeah.
right, but I really do think that that story in particular really proved Riley's case, and, like, the success of making her mom seem like a more well-rounded, like, understood
Yeah,
person, because after you read that, you do understand why she would have chosen that, and, like, it wasn't because she
100%.
was weird, it was because of
No,
who
and
she
yeah,
was.
I loved too when she said towards the end, she was like, "What the fuck am I doing?" Like, she sort of not snapped out of it, but she sort of
Yeah, she's like,
became
"It's
like,
time."
it's time to go, like, and she sort of
Yeah,
heard him in her mind be like, "Yeah, what
mom.
are you doing, girl?"
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
I really like that, and like you said, like, it made her more human, and even Riley was like, "It
yeah,
was weird, like, I'm not, like, trying to act like this is every day for everybody," and I liked that
mhm,
because it's like, girl, they're not in delusion, like, grief is weird, though, like, death is weird, it's uncomfortable, it's sad, it's all these things, and it's like,
yeah,
people just do different things to cope, and I liked that they sort of had this humor in it too. Like, it's not just all sadness. There's layers to everything. There's layers to
yeah,
life, and it was really beautiful. And I liked it a lot with the tattoo artist and her like sort of
yes.
showing it and him being like, "Oh, okay." Like, I
Yeah,
liked
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
just like you said
But
showed her
that's
as who she was.
yes, exactly. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No,
you've said what I was gonna say. Like, that's just who she was. Like, so her to be like, oh, actually, I could just show
so
you because
hilarious.
he's right over in this room. Like,
Yeah,
that's and she didn't think twice about it. Like, I
yeah,
just oh, I look up to her so much. Like, there's so many qualities of her life, not to place her on a pedestal, but to go through what she had gone through and then like just still, I don't
come
know,
out of it. Yeah,
yeah, come out of it for the better and wanting to help people, and like I just wish that I don't know, I wish that I had spent more time getting to know her
yeah.
while she was living. I don't think that it really, and for a lot of people this book will be the first time that they even like think about
Interact.
her
Yeah,
right as like a separate entity, because when you think of Lisa Marie Presley you automatically think of her dad, and that's just
yeah,
how it is. It's just how it is. And it's something she fought for her whole life. Not that she didn't want to be tied to her dad, but
yeah,
like she wanted that individuality, but she kind of, I think she even talked about it too, she just accepted that it was never going to be like what
yeah,
she wanted it to be in terms of like her artistry and things like that.
yeah.
um
And I could understand like both sides of that too, like
yeah,
not trusting that people want to actually be your friend or be your boyfriend because you're you, but they want that
yeah,
connection or that like hype around the name. So I
right,
get that. Um,
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
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 and I
yeah,
think we got to witness like the sort of turnings of that, like Riley said, like towards the end of her life, unfortunately, but like when the Baz Luhrmann movie came out and she came out and spoke about it and said how much she loved it and how, oh,
yeah,
no one portrayed my dad in the past very well. And like she had a little laugh about it and she wanted that public connection with him. Like she wanted
right,
that association for the first time that I've seen at least, or like the in our lifetime
yeah,
of like not it just being this private escape or this like coping mechanism of like I've got to go and be with my dad's bed or whatever it was. It was
yeah,
this no, I'm and not to say she was never proud, but like you said, like that like I don't want to be just his daughter, but like she did. Like at the end, she was like, I
right,
want this to be like something I can talk about as something I'm the authority on. I think a lot
right,
of that was seeing her mom fail miserably at it for so long, too. Like,
mhm,
no offense to
mhm,
Priscilla, but offense to Priscilla because she
right,
was just, I don't know, she held the fort, I suppose, for a long time. And I think that was sort of just beginning to pass on to Lisa before she died. Um, and I'm so glad people are seeing not Priscilla for who she is, that sounds crazy, but seeing a well-rounded portrayal of Priscilla for once, because people do just put her on this either huge pedestal or fuck that bitch. And it's like she's neither
villain,
of those
yeah,
people. Like she's like Riley said, like that was my grandma. Like I you know what I mean? Like I
right, and
liked
they
how
had
they
a
portrayed
relationship,
everybody. Yeah,
right, like they said like as Lisa got
that was
older
sweet.
they tried to like make up for lost time, whatever, and like
I like that.
of course, like yeah, 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 which makes me feel good because I mean I'm not part of their family, but they must
Right.
have, I
But
mean
just for
things,
Priscilla's sake too, like
yeah,
knowing that now she's gone and if they hadn't had those years or she
yeah,
like she wrote that song for her and she loved it. I'm like, that's sweet. Like
yes,
I
yes,
yeah, like I see the duality not the duality, what? The like dimensions of Priscilla through this too. Like, yes, she's
Yeah.
not the perfect person. She's not the worst person either. Like you said, she
Right.
doesn't go around killing people. Like,
Right.
there's both
And
sides.
you don't have to agree with everything that she's done either. That's
Oh,
the thing. But
absolutely not.
you don't have to hate her either. Like, that's just how I feel about everybody in Elvis's story. Like,
Yeah.
yes, do they make mistakes, girl? Of course. Like,
What?
yes. But right, like, yes, but so did Elvis, and like so do I,
Yeah.
girl. So like at the end
Everyone's
of the day,
human.
yeah. And certain things it's like, girl, like,
Right.
but
We can
at
still
the end of the day,
criticize her for some things.
right. Of course, and yeah, like there are things that I'm not even sitting here saying like, well, we all make mistakes. It's like, girl, some of the stuff
No.
that she did was kind of crazy. But
Right.
like, I mean, it's Lisa's
We can
story. It's
still be
Lisa's,
happy.
yeah, Lisa's like experiences with her mom, and like they were rocky, but from what I understand, like close to the time that she's died or that she passed away, like they
Mhm.
were improving or at least getting better, whatever. Like
Yeah.
Priscilla has a relationship with Riley and the girls, and she had one with Ben, and like whether it was like a huge, like really close knit one, like Riley had with Ben and her mom, like they were very, very
Oh
close.
my
And
god, yeah.
I don't know if it was ever that, but like, like I'm glad that they were
Yeah.
able to.
At least have that that I say front,
Yeah.
but it towards the end was becoming more real. Like Riley said they had nights like watching movies and drinking wine, and that
Hmm.
was like a nice image to have because I don't know, it's just nice. Like I just said, like I don't think she's perfect. I think there are things to criticize, but you would never want them to be estranged. You would never want that
That's
relationship
her
to be
mom.
right. At the end of the day,
Right.
I'm glad they had that moment of seeing eye to eye later on, at
Hmm.
least. And I remember like when the movie came out, um, and Lisa saying like coming out and just being like public again and saying
Hmm.
stuff and hanging out with Austin Butler and things like that. And it was just
Yeah.
so nice because it was like, oh my god, like she can sort of heal a little bit,
Yeah.
even if it'll never be the same. Obviously, that trauma like will never go. Like she says, like
Yeah.
you live in that guilt, like it's always there. Not guilt.
Hmm.
You live in that grief.
Grief.
It's
Yeah.
always that guilt. What?
Right. For what, girl? Like, wow.
But yeah, you live in that grief and it's always there. But like
Yeah.
you can have these experiences, you can have these moments, and it can be okay. Like, and I loved that. Like, I remember that era of the Elvis community, and everyone was like, yes, like, because Lisa was always that like person to support Elvis, not even defend Elvis,
Yes.
support Elvis,
For him.
and be like sort of his voice, if that makes sense. And she was
Right.
always the only person you could 100% trust. And I, like you said, I don't want to
Always.
put her on this pedestal of like she's the end all be all, but she honestly is. Like I don't, I hate to say it,
I
but
mean,
she,
but she did, like, she just proved herself through everything. Like
yeah,
that's why I look up to her so much, and why she was the end all be all for me, because throughout her whole life, like she stood up for her dad, and she never profited off of him, and she
yeah,
would take his side because she knew that he wasn't this monster that other people were trying to make him out to be, or like this like weird
mhm,
entity that like, whatever. Like she understood him for who he was, and like
yeah,
she always carried herself in a way that like would have made her dad proud, with the way that she did things at Graceland, with the way that she interacted with us, like with the way that
yeah,
she kept things. Like, I don't know, she was always proud to be his daughter, and
yeah,
was his biggest defender, biggest supporter, all of those things. And like she didn't just say that she loved him, she showed it. And I think that that's something that is lacking with a lot of people, girl. Like you have all these books, you have, like you were talking about, all these books with Elvis in the title, My Story with Elvis, My Years with Elvis, whatever it is. And it's like, girl, you talk a big game, and then the next day you're talking about how he ruined your life. Like, I don't know.
right,
She was the only one though in my book that didn't just preach that she loved him, but she showed it with everything that she did.
yeah,
And I just always, always, always respected her so much for that.
yeah. I love it, and
Yeah.
she wasn't. I don't think she even tries to paint him at all. And that's what I
No.
like. She doesn't try to be like, I don't know, she doesn't put him on this pedestal, even though she
Right.
does say, like, "He was a god to me, blah, blah, blah," which,
Mhm.
yeah, anyone when you're a daddy's girl or whatever, that just is. As your child, whatever, that
Your
is how you
dad is your,
see
like, prince or whatever, like,
that's
you
your
know how.
world, like,
Yeah,
girl, that's
exactly.
everything. That's just anyone's out like, point of view if you
Mhm.
have that relationship. So I was like, I love that, but, like, she doesn't I don't know, there's so many things I've seen in other books where people just build him up and up, up and up and up just for the sake of tearing him down, and but
Yeah.
they base it in all these expectations. But what I like about Lisa is she never had a moment where she didn't know Elvis and then she did know Elvis, like
Mhm.
everybody else. Like
Right.
every other girlfriend, every other friend even had a preconceived, this is what Elvis is going to be like, and I expect this from him, and if I get any less or any more than that, I'm going to be overwhelmed, it's going to be weird, and I'm going to like, oh,
Right.
she just took him for what he was because that's what you do with your parent. And then
Right.
no one else has that with him. And it's such a unique perspective. And if you are considering reading this book and haven't, read it now. Like everyone who's watching this probably has read
Period.
it. But
Well, girl, I mean, I know some
or will
people
read
who,
it.
yeah, who haven't but
Should read
will,
it.
and you need to. You need to, like, it's, I don't know, it's very well done and very just a book of love from family member to
Mhm.
family member to family member. Like, it's just, it's, it really, really
Yeah,
was better than I ever could have expected. Ever could have expected. And I'm
I
so
know.
grateful. Literally, like, opening this, you were on the phone with me when I
I
unboxed
was like,
it,
it's not
girl.
that serious, but then it was.
But
Like
then it was, because it is such a
it's
honor,
so good.
privilege
Yeah.
to have words from her mouth. Like, we know that he never got it,
Well, I'm gonna
girl.
cry.
No, it is, like, when you think about it, it's like such a huge, huge deal that she was able to say it before, in a month before, girl, she died. Like,
So lucky. Like that timing, that is like, what do they call it? Divine timing.
divine timing.
She said what she needed to say and she did. Like,
Yep.
yes. And
And so many people
that's
don't get
just so
that.
there's something so beautiful about it. And not to get spiritual or whatever. I don't know how many people really believe in that. And she even touches on that like in her book that she was spiritual. And oh my God,
Yeah.
the dreams part. This is what I said to you. I read it in like a day and you were still yet to receive it. And I was like,
Yeah.
Mary, what she says about dreams though.
I will
I
start crying right now. Like,
we
don't.
have to just touch on it a little bit. She says, I try so hard to get back to sleep to be with him again. And she calls the dreams visitations from Elvis. And I just, there's no like, we don't even need to analyze that. It's just so beautiful. And it's just so real. Like, I
Well,
love that.
that was probably one of my favorite parts of the book, because I
The
don't know
best.
if you saw my post on it on Instagram,
Yeah.
but, like, not to, like, get deep into it, girl, because, like you say, some people don't believe in this and then they think you're crazy. But, like, if one thing Lisa taught me, girl, is to say it, and whoever thinks weird things about you, they can
Exactly.
think them. But I literally remember, I'll never forget, girl,
That's
but
why I
when,
thought of you when I read it. Cause I was like,
yes, and it's let me just tell the story quick. But, like, when Lisa died, that night
mhm,
she died, like, the night that I found out she died, I did not sleep well at all. Like, I was just, it hit, girl, it hit me, it hit everybody. Like, you lost a
yeah.
family member. It was just awful. And I remember, like, falling asleep for a little bit, and I had such a vivid dream of her, and the things that she said to me in this dream. Like, I wrote them all down in my journal.
Mhm,
I will never forget them, because, like, I did truly feel like, um when I met her, I wished that I had more time with her, because I wished I could have said
yeah.
more. I wish I could have thanked her for more and just, like, acknowledged her as, um I wanted to, like, I wanted to make sure
I mean,
she
there's so
knew.
much you could say, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and, like, what,
yeah,
like, 2 minutes of
never
time that I
enough.
got. No,
Yeah.
exactly, it's crazy. But I remember, like, coming away from that being like, "Oh, if she ever does a show again, I'm gonna try to go, and I'm gonna try to talk to her. I'm gonna try to send her a letter. Like, I'm somehow, some way, I'm gonna try to say
Yeah.
those things to her." And then the night that she died, and this dream that I had, I don't dream like this. Like, my dreams are always crazy. My
No.
dreams never make sense. Like, you know me. Like, my
Yeah.
dreams are not. this. But I remember writing down in my diary, the dream journal thing, at the end of it, like, thank you for visiting me. And that was in 2023.
Stop.
2023 when she died. I wrote down thank you for visiting me. And then she wrote in her book about how she believes dreams are visitations and how people can visit you in your dreams. And broke I broke down because I was like,
Mm,
that's exactly what happened to me. Like, I saw her and she
yeah.
spoke to me, and like we connected, like we understood each other for like
Yeah.
whatever amount of time and whatever universe that was.
Mm,
And then I read that in her book and I was like, that, like, uncanny. Like, that's
it's
it.
crazy. Page
Craziness.
73 if you want. I
There
literally
you
have it
go.
read. I have
Yeah.
my university brain is like, write that down. Like, write that page number down.
Right.
Um,
I literally need
I hope
to
I'm right after saying that.
I have it marked. It's
Amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, 73.
73. Yep.
Brilliant.
And she even says twice a year after he died, I dreamed about my father. Like, she didn't dream about him every night either. Like, I don't know. There it has to be something. There's something about dreams, and not to make this like crazy, but
No, but yeah, whether
she didn't
you
dream about him
believe
every night.
in
Like,
like the spiritual, but like even if you don't believe that, right? Even if you just believe dreams or whatever, but don't you think like even if it was just your subconscious like giving you that message, protecting you, like that's girl, that is the love from that person. If not
mhm,
that person, it's the remains of that person because they
yeah,
are the girl, like even in a non even in an agnostic sense, girl, you know that that is grief or that is love, like
right,
in your subconscious or in wherever dreams come from in your chemical scientific way, that is still the remainder of feelings that need to come out. It's
right,
still a message. You know what I
right,
mean? Like even if you don't
right.
believe, which I personally do. Like I'm not even going to go into detail, but like when a member of my family died, I had a dream where we were just talking and it was so vivid and it was so real. And they said like, I'm okay now. Where I am, I'm okay. And I literally like when I saw the same, well, similar experience that Lisa had with Elvis,
Yeah.
I was like, that's so real. And I'm sure so many people have had dreams like that because that's how it works. You know what I mean? Like, it's just beautiful.
Mhm.
And I really liked that she was able to have that with Elvis, like,
Yeah.
as a form of closure, as a form of seeing him and being with him, like, even if
Yeah.
just, like she said, 2 nights a year in a dream. Like, I loved that. And that meant so much. And oh,
Yeah. That was definitely one of my favorite parts of the book. And I think like this part that I'm thinking of right now, I'll just read it real fast,
yeah,
but
please.
it works in tandem with it because it is that spiritual force. But Riley says in the preface, she says everyone who ever met her experienced a force, a passion, protection, loyalty, love, and a deep engagement with the
Mm,
spirit that was incredibly powerful. Whatever spiritual force my grandfather possessed undoubtedly ran through my mother's veins. When you were with her, you could feel it. And I was
felt
like,
it.
so true. Like,
Wow.
so true. Because I literally like met her for such a brief time and was instantly so connected to the point
Yeah.
where when she died, I was like, that's my friend. Like, that's
Yeah.
my family. And
That's so crazy, but it's so
it is
real.
crazy. It's
There
so
are just
real.
people like it, rare, few and far between, but some people are just like magnetic and so like
Mhm.
in tune with everything
Mhm.
that they just impact you like that. And it's so nice to know that she had that impact. And it
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't something she got from Elvis as a celebrity. It's something she got passed down to her like through her father, Elvis. Like it was
Right.
never about like when she says his funeral was an open one and like everybody came to mourn Elvis Presley, but they
Yes.
weren't mourning my dad. It
Mhm.
was such a beautiful thing because it's like that's true. Like there are everyone has their version of the Elvis they love, like in their minds, and that's just
Right.
so true. Like the things he, wow, I wish I wrote that down too. She said like, but Elvis Presley was his favorite thing to do, like
Yeah.
being Elvis,
Being
being on
Elvis.
stage, being that image, if you will, was his
Mhm.
favorite, and I love that she just anything she could have said, like, I hated the fans or I hated that they didn't know him. She doesn't say that. She says they knew him in the way he wanted to be known
Yeah.
in his, like, she just honors him so much in every breath and just honors everything. I just love her and I love the way she ate. Sorry, that was so
Right.
unprofessional to say. I wish I was more
No.
articulate. Like this whole video, I wish I was more articulate, but that's just like my first impressions of how
I
I
mean,
feel.
it's no, it's so hard. Like this video honestly was very daunting to me because I was like, I have so many so many that I didn't even share in this video, but like
Yeah.
I mean, overwhelmed with emotion after reading this and like the thoughts and feelings that I have, I may never be able to put into words. And so, but we wanted to sit down, me and Maggie both together. Which I feel really good that we did this because I do think our last podcast was honoring Lisa with our
Yeah.
tribute when she died. But
Yeah, I think it was. The Grace Before the Storm? Your Storm and
Storm
Grace?
and Grace. Yeah, it was Storm and
Yeah.
Grace when we uploaded like our little like messages that we had to share about her. We both read something and we both talked about her
Wow.
and
That
yeah, so now
feels
we're
so long ago.
I know, and it's almost 2 years now that since she's
Wow.
passed, which is crazy, but I feel really good that I was able to talk about it with somebody who I mean, you're my favorite person to have conversations with. You just get it. Like you get me, you get her, you get it
Same.
all. Like, and we stopped with Lisa, and now we're picking it back up with Lisa. So
Love
I
it.
love
Wow,
that we
that's full
recorded both of
circle. I
those.
really like that. I didn't pick
Yeah,
up on that. That's so interesting.
I'm pretty
It's
sure
so
that's what it was.
it's so perfect too because I feel like we've all, not that the community has like died or anything, it hasn't by any
Mhm.
means, but the community
Mhm.
sort of fell in this like sadness for a long time because of that. And
Yeah.
I sort of dip in and out the community a lot, like personally, just anyway, if you know my page, like
Yeah.
I'm always dipping in and out. I feel like you're a constant. A lot of people are a constant. Um, but I like that this is something that did bring everyone back. Like,
Back together.
and everyone was talking about it and like thinking about it constantly. It's just a nice thing, even though it's bittersweet.
Mhm.
It's like it's her final messages to the world. I say final, but I hope not. You know what I mean? You never know
Yeah.
what more could come from Riley through her, like through Riley from her. Yeah. Um,
Yes. Yes.
and
Yeah.
yeah, even if it is like a closing piece or whatever you want to call it, I just really enjoyed it and it
Yeah.
surpassed all expectations. I would like to talk about the
Yeah.
cover too. Is that
Yeah,
weird?
let's no.
This was
We were talking
good.
about how this was the most iconic
I think
cover
it's
they could have
so
chosen.
smart. And I remember when it was first announced and that this was the cover. Um, if you haven't seen it or whatever, it's literally the picture of Priscilla, Elvis, and Lisa, but Priscilla's completely not in the photo. You wouldn't know she was there if not for her hand. Um,
Yes.
and then it's half of Elvis's face.
Yes.
So, and I remember this got a lot of like criticism at the time. Everyone was like, "I hate this cover." Like, no, like I, and some people loved it. I remember loving it, and I think and thinking it was really
Period.
smart.
I do too.
Because there's
I
so
mean,
many ways
it's
you could interpret that.
right, but it is just like her childhood, right? Like
Yeah.
that's her childhood in an
Like
image,
that's
to be
all she
honest.
cared about. That was her world. But then you have this half, like she he got taken away from her too soon, so she
Mhm.
only got a pixel of him, or she only saw half of his. I don't know. There's so many like, oh, they're so good to, and she
Interpretations.
got the good side because she would never have been the brunt of anything negative about him or anything
Right.
bad about him. She only saw him as one thing, and that's what he is. There's something so beautiful about it. And also the little
Yeah,
eye, like he's watching her and he's always with her or something. I just really
I
like it. I
know.
think it's such a smart cover. And
Yeah, we
like I
could
said,
write a
there's so
whole
many things. Oh, there's so many things you could get into. And then on the back
yeah,
of the
in the
full
back, of
picture,
course.
because she
Of
offered
course.
her a full childhood and a full life and didn't leave her until, she was grown. So I just love that parallel because that's what the whole book is about too. Like you could read this book knowing nothing about Elvis and not caring about him at all as a person, as a famous person, and just read it
Yeah,
as a memoir and find so much in here to dissect and talk about just from a
right.
like person to person. Like, I love it.
Yep.
Like, I'm
And that's what she
literally,
wanted. That's what she wanted. She wanted
yeah,
this her story to just be a universal one that could help
yeah,
anybody who needed it and anybody who could relate to her in
hmm,
any way. Um, which
yeah,
I think she absolutely nailed. And like she wasn't even here to do the final product. I mean, she was just getting started, and just with the way
yeah,
she began and the way that she went about the process, like I think that this book is going to have an impact just like she wanted it to
yeah,
in many, many ways. And I think
absolutely.
she'd be really proud of Riley for. I
Oh
know
my
that she'd
God.
be really proud of Riley.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
I mean, she asked her to do it in the first place, which is why it's so nice. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like if it was something where Riley had to pick up this like broken project and piece
Yeah.
it together, like without knowing how she wanted it to be handled or without
Right.
instruction, but the fact it sort of started as this, I need your help with this, is so nice that it was be like she got to
Right.
fulfill that wish for her mom. I'm sad that she had to do it alone in the end to get it done, but the fact she
Mhm.
got it done, I don't know if I could do it. Like, personally, I don't even want to think about having to do this. It's such a feat. And the
Yeah.
fact that it goes into so many details, like, I'm close with my mom, but the things she has to almost interview her mom about, like in her
Mhm.
retrospect, like have to think about her mom getting with Michael Jackson while she was also with her dad, and
Right.
just things that the mind would be like, oh my God, like these things.
Right.
But she did it and like sort of took herself out of it, but then puts herself back in. And I like that. I like
Yeah.
her takes on things. She sort of sheds light on things that her mum missed out, and she clarifies that. It's just such a good idea to
Yeah.
have both
And
of them.
I agree. And I think too that if it wasn't a case where Lisa had asked her to um finish it or help her with it or whatever it was,
Yeah.
um and Riley just like kind of wrote it for the sake of writing it this close after her mom's like death, or like if Riley would have done it all by herself, like I think in that scenario it would have been almost a question of like, okay, are you doing this to profit off of like your mom's name,
Like the
like
right reasons. Yeah,
yeah, of
absolutely.
course. But it you don't even have to worry about that. You don't have to question why this book
No.
was written at all. Like you know why it was written, and that
Yeah,
makes it even
it's
more
beautiful.
endearing. Yeah.
And I love it's so real. Gosh, there's a part where she says, oh, she's remembering like them being in Elvis's room and looking at his Bible and like looking at a specific annotation. And she says, when I was writing this book, I wanted to call somebody to ask them, oh, what was that? And there was no one to
No one
call.
to call.
Bruh. Like, I was literally like, that's so sad and horrible, but so beautiful that she could put that in there. And that's part of the story, and that's part
Right.
of the tapestry, if you will. And I
Right.
like that almost things like that are kept private because you don't need to know that much detail. And I like that, yeah, the book, it does go into detail sufficiently, but so much is kept classy and kept classy is not the right word, but like kept private. Like what needs to stay out of it isn't in it. And I like that
Mhm.
a lot too.
Yeah.
Because she could
Very.
have
Yeah.
said anything. You know, I mean, she could have
Yeah.
completely dragged people through the coals and
She was just like a class act, and like,
yeah,
but like also just like a strong, like I don't know, like no filter, but in like the best, like non middle school way possible. Like she
yeah,
wasn't petty about it. She was just saying like, these are my words. This is how I feel, and this is what's going in, and this is what I want the world to know. And like, I will always respect her for that. Always.
100%. I love it.
I love it too. If you guys have not read it, I know so many of you have or are planning on it, but definitely do. And like
Yeah,
we look forward to hearing your thoughts. Like please, if you're watching this, I know this was a lengthy video, but if you're watching
yeah,
this and you have thoughts to share or comments on anything we have shared, like please leave it down below or message us or whatever. Like we'd love to continue the conversation.
yeah. I mean,
Um
God, you could do like a reading of it. Like it's
yeah,
so good.
so
Yeah,
good. We
like
just we can't recommend it enough. We cannot. Like
it's a great
as an
one.
Elvis fan, as somebody who loves Lisa, as
Mhm.
just somebody who's who's known grief too, like somebody who has lost
Yeah,
family, um, lost a brother, like all these, like it's resonated with me in many ways. And like, if I ever got to see Riley and like see her face to face, like I
yeah.
hope she knows how grateful we all are for what she's done for her mom.
I can't believe when you said it's been nearly 2 years.
January, it'll be 2 years.
It feels so long ago, yet so like
Yeah,
immediate. I don't know.
it does. It does feel, and I think it's because we still, I know we already talked about this, not to like
Mhm.
be a dead horse, but I think it is just something that we all still like can't believe happened.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Like it'll never sit right or like sink in really. But
no.
I think part of me feels like closure with this book. There is
Mhm.
closure and there is healing. And I hope for Riley's sake too, and Priscilla and like all her family really, that they can just sort of be proud of themselves, honestly, for what they've done, especially Riley with this. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I have to say. And I know that both Elvis and Lisa are so above any BS from this
Yes.
book or
That
from
might come out
any
of,
book that's ever come out.
right. It's all been said before. It'll all
Yeah,
unfortunately keep being said. But to have more and more voices come forward and share their stories is only going to help and only going to aid in those situations where we just want to make people look human and have
yeah,
people, you know, fully just, I don't know, be human. And this book made her look human, which she was, but it like it shone light on her humanity. It shone light on Elvis's humanity,
yeah,
on their family, on the love that just like radiated through that family. And that's all I could really ever ask for. So,
yeah. Well, thank you for
uh,
having me on the Mary
girl,
channel, for calling
the
it that
Mary Show.
all the time.
You
The
called
Mary
it that
channel.
so many times. No, the Mary Show. Like, no, girl,
It
all about
literally
Elvis.
is. I love it so much, and I love you.
I love you too, girl. If you guys are not following Maggie, I know this was kind of like, usually when I do guests, it's more about the guest and less about like external things. But I really wanted to have Maggie on and just talk about this book with me because I knew like it would just be an amazing conversation. But if you guys are looking to like, if you're on YouTube and you're looking to follow Maggie, definitely on Instagram, Elvis and Leather, check her out. Her
Yeah,
page is just, it's just unlike any other, honestly. That's why I followed it when I first
love you.
started it. I think she was
That's
like
so crazy.
one of the first that I followed because of her individuality and like her uniqueness, just
Love
like
that.
Lisa. So very on brand. But
Wow.
yeah, make sure to follow
Honored.
her because she's always adding to the conversation and like beautiful and like
Always yapping.
intelligent though, like such, you're
I hope
very like,
so.
no, you are. Like you make me think about things in ways that no one else has ever. So
Wow.
that's, I love you.
Love that.
I
I
love
love
to
you
hype
too.
you up.
And
Well,
vice versa. Like, honestly, you're always saying what everyone's thinking, but in a better way. Do you know what I mean? Like, uh, yeah, but
girl.
you never echo the community. Like, it's always nuanced and it's always unique and like original, but it's always what everyone wants to say but can't. You know what I mean? So you always
Thank
give it
you.
that touch, and I love it so much, and I love what you do, and I'm really glad to be here. It's so crazy to think because I dip in and out so much of the
Yeah.
call it the Elvis community, but literally just Instagram community.
Yeah.
Um, and like I forget that oh, we do know each other because of Elvis and stuff. So whenever stuff like this comes up and
Yeah.
we are able to get together and talk about things and like have that perspective, each other's perspective, and like bounce ideas and stuff. It's really nice because I
Mhm.
love talking about stuff like this. I always have an opinion. I always have something to say, whether good
Think
or
about
bad.
me
Like,
is
so the thing about
right.
me,
I love how we both just, we know each other because of him, and everything we do is just like a big like shout out to that, which I love. I don't know
yeah,
if that makes any sense,
everything.
but like, yeah, I
No,
love
it makes perfect sense.
I love that. But yeah, if you guys want to see more of Maggie, you're in luck because it's coming.
They're like, no.
They're like, I never
So-
said that.
I never said that. I'm giving a thumbs down for sure. Unsubscribe.
No, well, if you don't want it, then you can skip because Maggie's my girl and she's gonna be here. If you want more me and Maggie content, it's definitely gonna come around. But I thank you for coming on with me tonight and talking about this awesome, amazing, heartwarming book, memoir.
It's a great book, truly, and
Yeah.
it's one of the only Elvis books I was like happy to read too. Like,
Just wanted to read. So if you haven't read it, please do. If you have, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Definitely reach out to us.
yes,
And we will talk to y'all soon. All right. Bye. I love you.
love you.